Good morning, class. This is a video about the different types of witnesses that appear in criminal court cases. This information is not in the textbook, so it's very important that you pay attention here. There are basically two types of witnesses in court. The first type, the most common, is what we call fact witness, the fact witness. Fact witnesses testify to facts. They validate facts in a case. This might be someone who is an eyewitness to something. They will testify to what they saw. If they are asked for their opinion, it is simply to clarify their personal opinion about something that will help clarify their testimony. A fact witness is just that. They simply testify to facts that occurred. As a criminal justice professional, I have been called to testify as a fact witness. One example, I had a sex offender in a sex offender therapy group that I led who became non-compliant and was dismissed from group. When I was called to testify in court, the offender's attorney wanted to ask all sorts of questions about my expertise. The judge stopped him and said that the only issue to determine was the fact of whether or not the offender had been dismissed from group. So the judge asked me directly, the judge did, Mr. Bryson, did you dismiss this individual from group therapy? Yes, Your Honor, I dismissed them from group therapy. Why did you dismiss them? For violation of group rules. Those are factual matters. That's it. There's no expert opinion that's necessary in that. That's a fact witness. The other type is an expert witness. An expert witness gives expert opinion. Now I'm going to give you links to some videos to a movie called My Cousin Vinny. In the movie, the judge asked, is that opinion or is that fact? And she says, it's a fact, Your Honor. Well, terminologically, when we're talking about the terminology, in other words, no, it's an opinion. An expert opinion actually weighs more heavily than fact in that particular case, because the expert opinion can be fact, but it still is called opinion in the court. Going further, I have been called to testify as an expert a lot more frequently than as a fact witness. One time I was called to testify about whether a particular defendant who was 60 years old, had never been in trouble with the law, was at high risk or low risk to commit more crimes. And I'm not going to go into the details of what their crimes were because my work with them was confidential outside the court. But I was being asked to give my expert opinion as to whether or not this person had a high likelihood or a low likelihood of committing another offense. That made me an expert witness in that situation. Now, what makes you an expert is not so much the degrees that you hold. This has been over 20 years ago, but I was actually, this was before I even had my PhD. I only had a master's degree. I was determined to be an expert in a particular case where a psychiatrist with an MD and a fellowship at a major hospital was not considered to be an expert by the court. So you might ask, how does one get to be known as an expert by the court? The same process that is used for qualifying jurors. That is in the textbook. It's the voir dire or the voir dire, however you might pronounce it. Both pronunciations are fairly common. It's the process of qualifying someone to be in the court. When a jury is being chosen, they are voir dired. They're asked questions to make sure that they can be objective before they're qualified to sit on the jury. The same thing happens with expert witnesses. An expert witness will be voir dired. They will be asked a lot of questions about their expertise to determine if they have that specific expertise. Now, you don't have to remember this, but the Daubert rule is the rule for whether testimony is expert testimony or not. We're not going to go over that in this particular video. But so expert witnesses have to be voir dired. They have to be asked questions to qualify them. I had a lot more training in sex offender specific work in this one particular case than the MD psychiatrist. The MD psychiatrist was told, you can be an expert on general mental health issues, but you cannot be an expert on sex offenders. And they needed an expert on sex offenders. I'm going to stop the screen share now. It's very important that you understand this piece about the different types of witnesses in the courts. We will see you next video.